Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
If we encourage and we inspire, we can save some lives.
Dealing with HIV 40 years later.
There's no way to tell specifically how many events take place on any given day.
Cybersecurity becoming a bigger threat.
It's important that in this particular case that the legislative branch and the executive branch are completely separate.
A veto override session becoming more likely.
You can become a queen.
And a preteen making history.
Hi everyone, I'm Kara St. Cyr. André Moreau has the night off. We begin with news about a former Louisiana governor, Edwin Edwards, entered into hospice care. He made the decision after being rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. He assured everyone that he's okay, and he says this was the best option for his family and not because of declining health. Also happening this week, the Louisiana Department of Health confirmed 30 fully vaccinated people caught COVID and died. Dr. Joseph Cantor with LDH says these breakthrough cases are rare, but we'll see more of them as infection rates rise. He still recommends everyone get vaccinated to reduce the spread. And now we'll look at other news making headlines across the state.
Lawmakers are demanding an investigation into the practices of the Louisiana State Police. The Legislative Black Caucus is asking the DOJ to determine whether the police violate the constitutional rights of African Americans. The caucus wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney General showing examples of what they call gross misconduct in cases of Ronald Green and Aaron Bowman, two men that died during scuffles with the police. The ACLU also asked the department's Civil Rights Division to look into agency tactics. More solar power is in the works for Louisiana. A few companies are looking at rural parts of the state to build 7 different projects, with at least 3 located in unincorporated areas. Developers say about $200 million in project money in Thibodaux and Bogalusa would yield about 200 megawatts of power. Another $145 million in Singer would yield about the same. Developers say these projects would create several construction jobs. They estimate anywhere between 160 to 300 would be available. If you don't like snakes, you may not like this next story. A 12-foot Burmese python was on the loose at the Mall of Louisiana. Kara escaped her enclosure at the Blue Zoo and successfully hid from everyone for at least 4 days. In a statement, the Blue Zoo wrote that the staff created a safe home for the snake, but she slithered out and escaped anyway. Workers and animal experts were called in to help find her. She was curled up in a tight ball in the ceiling when workers finally got to her. She was taken to the LSU vet school to be checked out. Workers at the Blue Zoo say she'll be back once they tighten security around her enclosure. If you were in New Orleans for the 4th of July weekend, a celebrity may have been the reason for the firecrackers you saw. Actor Will Smith spent $100,000 for the annual fireworks show on the Mississippi River. Smith was in town filming a movie called Emancipation when he found out that the city wasn't going to pop fireworks for the holiday. They'd canceled the annual event last year because of COVID-19. He footed the bill for all the pyrotechnics, and the show went on without a hitch.
Never before have lawmakers successfully voted for a veto override session, but this year some legislators agree that it's a very real possibility. Governor John Bel Edwards vetoed several bills that some legislators say were essential for their constituents. A divide is growing between lawmakers calling for the veto override session and those who think it would be unnecessary. I spoke with representatives on both sides of the spectrum. Here's what they have to say.
Pressure for action is mounting at the Capitol. After session ended in June, some lawmakers were left dissatisfied with what happened, or really what didn't happen. House GOP leader Blake Miguez says the governor vetoed several key Republican bills that won bipartisan support.
Last Friday, he vetoed, I believe it was reported, roughly 25 bills from House and Senate members, all Republican, that dealt with balance of power, transparency in government, vaccine passports, even so far as some of the bills were local. Some of the bills many of them were supported with bipartisan support, overwhelming majorities, in some cases unanimous support.
Out of those bills that didn't make the cut were two controversial ones. The Fairness in Women's Sports bill, which if passed would keep transgender girls from participating in girls' sports, and the Concealed Carry bill that would nix the permit required to carry a gun. Both bills passed with flying colors, only to be rejected by the governor. John Bell Edwards said early on he wouldn't support the transgender girls bill, calling it discriminatory. He also said he wouldn't sign the Concealed Carry bill because he thought the permit was a good balance. But the governor's decision is tearing the Capitol down the middle.
The Women's Fairness in Sports and the Constitutional Carry bill are two bills I think struck the hearts of many of the constituents across Louisiana.
To Miguez and other lawmakers that supported these bills, among others that were rejected, a veto override session is the only way to settle this dispute. Half of the members from the House and Senate would need to vote in favor of this veto session for it to actually happen. And it's looking like support is building on both sides of the political spectrum. But as support is mounting, so is opposition. Representative Kyle Green says that session would be a waste of time.
I think the governor exercised good judgment in vetoing some of the bills. Actually, I would like to have seen some of the bills, more vetoes issued, but this governor has always indicated that he would govern from a centered position and always working in a bipartisan fashion. And I think that's what he's done in striking good balance and working with members and our friends on the other side of the aisle.
But Green also thinks the bills some lawmakers want to override would come back and haunt the state in the long run.
I don't think they're good public policy.
To him, the Fairness in Women's Sports bill is not an issue in Louisiana, since there haven't been reports of something like that happening.
If you look in Louisiana right now, there's not one situation where we have a transgender woman playing against biological women. We don't have that here. And it's not happening in high school because LSWI has already promulgated rules that prevent that. Then on top of that, it's what message do we send to our brothers and sisters who are transgender?
While on the concealed carry issue, Green says it's just dangerous. And he isn't the only one. Organizations and lobby groups are starting to get involved in this veto override session. Louisiana Progress Action is working against it.
I was personally not a huge fan of the tax reform compromise that came out of the legislature this year, right? Nonetheless, it did, require bringing a lot of people together. It is a massive, change to the system. And if the governor had vetoed that, and they decided we need a veto override session because we went through this whole thing, we came up with this giant tax reform, it was bipartisan, and we need to do a veto override session for that. I could understand that. That would make sense to me. And I think we should maybe be focusing more on how do we raise that median household income level from 48th in the country. I think we should be focusing more on that than overriding vetoes on harmful bills.
On the other side of that argument, other organizations are pressing for it. The Louisiana Family Forum is fighting to override those bills, just like Representative Miguez. They were not available for comment. Blake Miguez says whether these bills are overrode or not, it'll set a precedent in the future for lawmakers to oppose what they think is right or wrong.
Our founding fathers set up three different branches of government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. And it's important that in this particular case, that the legislative branch and the executive branch are completely separate and operate independent of each other.
If enough lawmakers give their support, that session would begin on July 20th. Several countries around the world are fighting a huge cybersecurity breach. Big businesses and government agencies don't have access to very sensitive data. Hackers are holding it for ransom, and they're demanding millions in exchange. Experts say we can expect more breaches like this in the future, even in places like Louisiana. I spoke with a technology specialist who says preparation is key.
It's clear that technology will be with us for a very long time. That means all of its conveniences and all of its dangers will stick around too, and experts say it's best to be prepared for the worst.
On Friday, Russian-linked hackers targeted the software company Kaseya, based in Florida.
Kaseya is an example of the worst that could happen. Hackers can take over an entire business and hold it for ransom. In this particular attack, the hackers are asking for millions of dollars in exchange for the company's data. Experts are saying it's likely these types of attacks will continue to get worse over time, and they won't always target large businesses. Instead, small, more local ones, even here in Louisiana, are vulnerable. CEO of Trust IT, Jeff Hansen, says that we've already seen the beginning of cyber attacks here.
There's no way to tell specifically how many events take place on any given day because there's no central reporting requirement. So an individual can get hit with ransomware, or a business may get hit with ransomware or a cyber breach, but they're not required to disclose that unless there is a breach of private information that they then have to reveal took place.
There isn't an accurate number to tell us how many people are really falling victim to these types of attacks. But according to Seculor, an organization dedicated to documenting breaches, Louisiana has seen at least 26 cyber attacks from 2019 to now. Most of them targeted local government agencies, hospitals, and schools. Hansen says these places, along with small businesses, usually hold sensitive information that hackers want for one of two things: ransom or espionage.
A lot of them are ransomware because the goal there is for the cyber criminals to make money, right? So they're going to encrypt all the data on your computers, shut down the systems, and then hopefully also delete your backups to where you have no other choice but to really two things: one, go out of business, or two, pay the ransom. The other goals are espionage, which is what we saw with the SolarWinds breach. That was big in the news, and that was what's referred to as a supply chain attack. And the goal was not ransomware, it was for the malicious software to spread across networks so that they could do espionage, get reconnaissance on data and systems. So the goal wasn't extortion, dollar extortion. It could have been to do something like that later, but they were two separate goals: espionage versus extortion.
But even if the odds of more cyber attacks are growing, Hansen says there are things you can do to protect your small business or personal computer. The first thing is obvious. You'll need some very strong antivirus solutions. The stronger your barriers are, the less likely you'll be hacked. The second line of defense is to keep high-quality backups. A lot of times when hackers take your computer for ransom, they try to destroy your backups, so you have no other option but to pay up. Next, make sure you have two-factor authentication for your devices. All that means is you have a code to determine it's you and not a hacker. A good example of this is when you log into your email from another device and you get a notification on your phone asking you to verify whether it's you. And lastly, Hansen says training goes a long way.
Investing in cybersecurity training and phishing training and testing of your staff, because a staff that is wise and understands what phishing attempts are and what sort of tactics cyber criminals use to get you to click on links and open malicious websites and do things you shouldn't do with your computer. If your staff is aware of those things, then they stop doing those things or minimize the occurrence of that, which then lowers your ability to be hit with a ransomware. So an educated staff in terms of cyber is really important.
Bottom line, get a game plan and make sure all of your devices are protected. And if you still have a security breach, make sure you report it. Dr. Joyce Turner Keller is one of Louisiana's most articulate and vocal voices on the subject of HIV. The pandemic is now in its 40th year of existence. More than 77 million people have become infected with HIV during that time, and more than 37 million have died. LPB's André Moreau sat down with Keller to hear her view on what's changed in these 4 decades and what hasn't.
What hasn't changed about HIV is the stigma and the discrimination that's attached to it. The alienation, the rejection, the fear in the workplace. What hasn't changed is society still thinking that it's necessary for me to disclose that I'm living with HIV. And it doesn't, just the definition itself how people perceive people who are HIV positive as sinners. That hasn't changed. What hasn't changed is the mentality around HIV, how people seem to want to diminish your worth. And especially people who are working in the field of HIV, I have found that oftentimes when I'm invited to speak, that they will prefer to pay someone else a decent salary for speaking, or let's say a stipend. But when I am asked to speak, usually it's because it's almost that they want to make it appear that I owe the community something because I'm HIV positive and I should speak and just do it for free. But I can't. I mean, that doesn't pay my bills. Right. And I know my worth because I'm more than a woman living with HIV. I'm a professional. I'm a mother. I'm a woman. I bring a lot to the table.
And you have been out there.
I've been out there, and I've earned my stripes. Yes, I've earned my stripes in a bunch of ways. Yeah, absolutely. I've dealt with discrimination on every level. In the church, I've dealt with it in political situations. I've dealt with the same rejection that anybody else deals with. And yet, people still want to devalue you because of your status. That has not changed. That has not changed.
Change the definition, murder by omission.
Well, the average person who goes to church believes that they're exempt from HIV. They think they can pray it away. And I am a living testimony that prayer doesn't stop you from becoming infected.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are fighting for our life.
What about since the Women in Film series that you did, that you were featured in, what did that film series teach people?
What it did teach, well, I know one of the things that happened here in the city when I was seeing Under the Bridge doing testing and working with the homeless population, some politicians and community leaders took note to see themselves on a global level with people under the bridge living. They started trying to find public housing. So that impacted the homeless community in a great way. Also, the conversation around HIV became a lot louder in the churches. Gender identity, became an open conversation. Mm-hmm. And I made sure that that was necessary because people deserve to be loved. I don't care who you are. And my premise, what I believe as a minister, is that God is inclusive. God is inclusive. And if I am about my Father's business, then I too must walk that path and be equally as inclusive. So that film started a lot of conversations, and it began to open doors to where people began to let me in, and they wanted to hear it. And then the little small gatherings at the kitchen tables where people began to secretly call. So the conversation started, young people started having a safe place to fall. So it opened some doors, it opened some eyes, and it opened some ears. I've been in this fight for 20 years since my diagnosis. I mean, from day one, the minute I found out I was positive, I'm like, okay, well, here's another fight. I'm in it. And I'm not in it just to fight, I'm in it to win it. Because there are days I'm tired, but I know it has to be done. Somebody has to do this. What has changed are our meds. You don't have to take a whole bunch of pills now. We can take one pill, or you can take a shot that you may have to take, every 3 months? So that's changed. Right. Science has really given us some help. So that has changed. The way advocacy is done has changed. The way we're serving our community has changed. And I can't always say it's for the better.
One thing that continues, it's still not a cure.
There's not a cure.
Not a cure.
I say there's no cure because there's more money in treatment than there is in prevention. I mean, let's be for real about it. Yeah. Medicines are sky high. The pills are real, real, real high. The medicine is high. There's a lot, I understand that research has to be paid for. I know pharmaceutical companies have to be paid. Everybody has to be paid. Doctors have to be paid. But if there was a cure, it would eliminate some jobs.
Sure would.
It would cut down on some revenue.
How do people afford it being so expensive?
If I didn't have Medicare, I would die.
Okay.
But then there are some of these prescription programs that help to afford the mask. They said help to afford, but if a product is $1,500 a month, you get 10% off of that, but you still, or 40% or even 50%, how you're going to afford it.
Right.
So, but for some of these programs and patient assistance programs, Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare, then some people we would not have medical care.
What do you see next?
Hopefully what I will see is a more compassionate country. Hopefully I will see the next generation take up this mantle, like my grandchildren. They're all certified in HIV/AIDS education. If we educate, if we teach, if we empower, if we encourage, and we inspire, we can save some lives, and we can end the fight against HIV and AIDS. We can stop the spread of it, and we have the tools to do it, because we, as leaders, should be the mentors that lead by examples, and that's how we can end this fight.
It's always great to talk to you. Love you.
Love you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
A girl in Lafayette is making history as the first African-American to win Miss Lafayette Preteen USA. She didn't start participating in pageants until she was 11 years old, and now she's taken home several winning titles and says she won't stop until she's Miss Universe. Tonight, I'm introducing you to André Moreau.
The new Miss Universe is South Africa.
When Zosie Tunzi was crowned Miss Universe in 2019, it was a win for South Africans.
You see that? Why is she crying? Why is she crying?
But it was also a win for a little girl named Heaven, watching the pageant at home in Lafayette.
All your dreams will come true just like that.
I seen South Africa walking the runway in this pretty glittery gown, and when I seen her, it just made me want to be like her.
Miss South Africa's look was nothing like Heaven had seen before. Her hair was short and natural, and she was beautiful on the stage. When she walked away with the crown, it ignited something in Heaven, a motivation to do just what Miss South Africa had done. Win.
She actually saw herself in Miss South Africa. She was stunned by the way she walked on stage, the confidence she had. She was just like so overwhelmed with that. And that's when she asked, why can't she do it? And, I just thought about it for a minute, and I was like, why can't you?
Yolanda Bro, Heaven's mother, started from scratch. She didn't know the first thing about getting a child ready for a beauty pageant, so she turned to the only place she knew could teach her something, YouTube. They watched videos showing her how to walk and how to pose, but it still wasn't enough for the Boudin Festival.
I was nervous because it's my first pageant, and I didn't really know how to really walk at that time. So I went on stage, I had stand and smiled, and then I just went off the stage. All the rest of the girls, when they came on, they were doing twirls in their dresses and standing on stage for a long time. And then when it was time for crowning, everybody else got an award, and I was the only one who didn't.
But don't feel too bad for Heaven. This loss was a learning experience. She still wanted to have her Miss Universe moment, and it wouldn't come without a little bit of failure and a little bit of perseverance, which she needed for her next couple of pageants. She tried the Etouffee Festival not long after her first loss, but that didn't go so well either. This time, she didn't have the right dress.
You needed a glittery dress that was sounding good on stage, but since we didn't know that, we had just went on Amazon and we had just bought a dress from there.
It was another loss that she could use as motivation to keep going. And after that, she finally got her win.
It was a great honor for me to be crowned 2020's Louisiana's Honorable Miss Preteen Queen.
It was the confidence boost she needed to go all the way. But the next competition she practiced for was in the big leagues. Lafayette Preteen USA is a stepping stone for Miss USA pageants. If she won this, it could set her up for winning Miss USA and even Miss Universe down the line.
She wanted to try out for it. I told her we don't have much time to practice to get it right. She was agreeing to give it 150%.
And she did. She was crowned Miss Lafayette Preteen USA. It was a mini Miss Universe moment. That win meant everything to her and her family, not just because it was a feat, but because no one else that looked like heaven had ever done this before. She was the first African American to take home this title.
Once they had called me, at first I thought they had called me for first alternate. And so I was just standing there and smiling, but once I seen them with the crown and the sash and some roses, then I had freaked out.
Kevin is one of the only Blacks there. And she's always telling me that she wish it was more. I would hope that we can get out of that. It's just little girls, Black girls, to see you can enter the pageant world and you can become a queen.
So what's next for the 13-year-old who's already made history? It's easy to guess. More pageants, more tryouts, and more wins. Also making history today, a 14-year-old girl from Harvey just took the win for the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Zaila Avantgarde is the first African-American and the first Louisianian to win the title. Her winning word was Muria, which is a type of tree you can find in Asia. But that's not the most unique thing about her. Avantgarde is also a Guinness World Record holder for dribbling basketballs. She says she wants to coach an NBA team someday. And that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime with our app. You can get it free from the App Store. It has LPB news and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you love. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Kara St. Cyr. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.